What would you do if you couldn't go down to the local CVS or Walmart and get the medicines that you need? How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Pilot Patriot channel. Today we're going to be talking about survival medicine and how to make sure you have the medicines you need in an emergency or grid down situation. In today's world, most illnesses can be treated by just popping a pill. But what if that all changed in an emergency situation or grid down scenario? Usually pharmacies are going to be the first thing to be looted. In this video, we're going to talk about what kind of medicines you could store for emergencies and how to get your hands on them. But first, if you haven't done it yet, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Most preparedness-minded people understand the importance of having first aid kits and medical kits and things like that. But one thing that can sometimes be overlooked or hard to find is medicine. First, let me just say I'm not a doctor and I don't pretend to give any kind of medical advice. So anything I mention in this video is just a suggestion, and you should obviously consult your doctor to make sure you're taking the right kind of medications and the right doses. So let's dive right in and take a look at what kind of medications you should store up for emergencies. The first kind of medicine we're going to talk about, and the easiest to acquire right now, is over-the-counter medications. The first over-the-counter medicines we're going to talk about are things for pain relief, inflammation, and fever. Things like acetaminophen, ibuprofen, and aspirin. Even though these things are easy to get right now, most people have a very small supply on hand, and in a prolonged emergency situation, they will run out. And even though these things are very common, most of us don't really understand how much we're really going to miss these if we don't have access to them. The next over-the-counter medicine that's important to have is anti-diarrhea and anti-nausea medications. In a disaster or survival situation, it can be very common to get into some contaminated water or food poisoning, and without a way to treat those symptoms, that could be fatal. So having things like Imodium and Pepto-Bismol are important. And one note about these things, if you are going to store a medicine like Pepto-Bismol, it's better to do it in the pill form rather than the liquid form. That pill form is going to store a whole lot longer. The other side of that could be storing up things like stool softeners and laxatives. Next would be cold medications. The common cold or even the flu is not something that we really worry about anymore, but without the proper medication, it would be very difficult. So things like cold and flu medicines and Sudafed can be great to have. Now, often cold medicines are highly regulated, so this is something you may have to get a little bit at a time. The next big one is going to be vitamins. Having good multivitamins is going to be very important in situations like this, especially in situations where you may not be getting a complete diet or if you're having to ration food. Having good multivitamins can help supplement your diet and keep you healthy. And when you're looking at vitamins, don't forget things like children's vitamins and prenatal vitamins. Often children and expecting mothers are going to be most susceptible to vitamin deficiencies. Next is going to be allergy medications like Benadryl and Allegra. Allergies are another thing that in today's world are just a mild inconvenience, but in a situation where you don't have access to those relieving medications, it can turn into a very bad situation. Also, if you're allergic to anything like bee stings, you will need to be prepared to treat that, whether it be an EpiPen or some other medication, because going to the hospital may not be an option. Another thing that you can get over the counter that could be very important in survival situations is things like alcohol and peroxide. These can be very important for treating and cleaning wounds and things like that. And also having a good first aid or medical kit is important as well. The next big one we're going to talk about is antibiotics. Since the beginning of time, one of the biggest killers of people has been infection. And today, most infections can be treated with antibiotics. These are usually only by prescription and only enough for one treatment. But in an SHTF, grid down, or emergency situation, small cuts or scrapes in a dirty or contaminated environment can be a death sentence. So having antibiotics is probably going to be at the very top of my list of medicines that you need to store for emergency situations. Now, one thing you should never do is take veterinary antibiotics like this fish amoxicillin right here, even though they are the exact same medicine as human antibiotics and can be found very easily on a pet store shelf. So if you find yourself in an emergency situation and you are dying from an infection, I definitely do not recommend taking the possibly life-saving veterinary antibiotics. However, if you want to stock up on these totally 100% only for your pets, that may be a good idea. Now, if you're looking for antibiotics of the human variety, there is a company that is revolutionary in the preparedness world right now. This is Jase Medical. Jase Medical is a company that will prescribe you an emergency supply of various different types of antibiotics that you may need. These are antibiotics that are prescribed to you by a real doctor filled by real pharmacies. Jase Medical is an online service powered by real doctors that will prescribe you an emergency supply of antibiotics. The antibiotics you can expect to get from Jase Medical, and please guys, don't expect me to say these correctly, but Zithromax, doxycycline, metronidazole, ciprofloxacin, azithromycin, and amoxicillin. Now, Jase Medical makes it a pretty easy process. You just go onto their website, and I will put links in the description below if you want to get some of this for yourself. But you go on their website and do a quick questionnaire and consultation. You'll give them some information on your medical background, and one of their doctors will write a prescription for you that's then filled by one of their partner pharmacies and shipped directly to your door for only $249. Now, that's actually a pretty good price for everything that you're going to get in this kit. You're also going to get an emergency antibiotic guide that's going to explain to you how each of these antibiotics should be used and what doses you should take it in and for what period of time. The antibiotics that they provide to you are going to treat things like skin infection, UTI, pneumonia, and even treat sicknesses from bioterror attacks like anthrax. Now, right now, Jase Medical is only offering antibiotics in their kit, but they also plan in the future to prescribe emergency supplies of other chronic medications. So make sure you check out Jase Medical, guys. Having a good stock of emergency antibiotics is going to be crucial to have in your preparedness medicine kit. Next thing we're going to talk about is prescriptions. These are anything that you have to take on a daily basis, things like blood pressure medications, heart disease medications, things that you just can't go without. Most of the time, these are prescribed in low doses and can be very difficult to get an emergency supply of things like this. One thing you could do is just talk to your doctor. Go to your doctor, explain to him that you'd like to have an emergency supply of this type of medicine for emergency situations where you may not be able to get to the pharmacy, or situations where the doctor can't be reached or anything like that. Just explain it to them, talk to them about it, and there is a chance they may say, okay, here's a prescription for an extra month's supply. That may or may not work, but it's worth a try. One prescription drug that is going to be a huge issue in a grid down situation is insulin. Not only is the supply going to be a problem, but it also has to be refrigerated. So if you're going to store an extra amount of this for emergencies, you're going to have an off-grid power source so that you can power a small refrigerator or something like that to keep it down to the temperature it needs to be to preserve it. The next one we're going to talk about is prescription painkillers, narcotics, opioids, that kind of thing. Now, these are highly regulated, but they could be nice to have on hand, at least in small quantities, for an emergency situation. Now, these are highly addictive and very dangerous, so you do need to be careful about how you use that. And you need to store them so that children and unauthorized people can't get access to them. Now, this is one that doctors are not likely to prescribe you an emergency supply of. Opioid addictions and painkiller addictions are a huge problem, and a lot of people take advantage of those and abuse them. So the doctors are not going to give you an emergency supply of that. But if you have some left over from a surgery or something like that, you may want to store those away for emergency situations where you find yourself in chronic pain and a doctor's office or a hospital is not accessible. Of course, these should only be ones that were prescribed to you. I definitely don't recommend going and buying them off the street or anything like that. The next one we're going to talk about is home remedies. So home remedies, herbal remedies, and natural medicines have been used for hundreds and thousands of years to treat all the illnesses that we treat today with modern medicine. So having a good knowledge of home remedies and how to treat certain things can be very important. I will put a link in the description below to a couple books on that subject. So often, guys, in emergency situations, knowledge is going to help you out more than anything else. For example, honey can be used as a topical treatment for wounds. And finally, guys, the last medication we're going to talk about is one that we mentioned briefly in our last video about surviving a nuclear attack. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to that right here at the top of the screen. But that medication is going to be an anti-radiation treatment for nuclear attack. These are medicines like Thyrosafe and Iosat. These medicines are going to protect your thyroid to help prevent sickness from radiation poisoning in nuclear fallout. And guys, since we're talking about storing medications for emergency situations, we're most likely talking about long-term storage. So something to really think about is the expiration date of medicines. Now, most, if not all, medicine is going to have some type of listed expiration date. And there are medicines that can be dangerous if you take them after that expiration date. So make sure you do your own research on that, so you're not going to hurt yourself rather than help yourself. But I can say that the vast majority of medications would be safe to take even after that expiration date, and most of those are going to maintain 90 to 100% of their effectiveness up to 5 or even 10 years or longer. Even after that time period, they're still not going to be dangerous for you to take. Most likely what happens over time after that expiration date is they just start to lose a little bit of their effectiveness over time. So they may just not work as well. But in an emergency situation, it's still going to be better than nothing. Again, I just want to point out, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. So do your own research. Ask your doctor about the true effectiveness and expiration dates on medicine. Are they still safe to take after that expiration date? In a lot of cases, the answer to that is going to be yes, they are safe. They just may lose their potency over time. Another thing to think about when you're storing medications for long periods of time is that you want to be storing up hard medicines, not liquids or gel capsules or things like that. The hard pill form is going to store the longest. Another thing I definitely recommend, along with storing up medications for emergency situations, is having good books on the subject. So books like this Survival Medicine Guide by Drs. Joseph and Amy Alton. This is one of the best preparedness books that you can get on the subject of survival medicine. It's going to talk specifically about treating things when the grid is down and you don't have access to doctors and pharmacies. So I will link to that book in the description below. I'm also going to link to a few books on medicinal plants, some books on dental medicine in survival situations where you can't go to the dentist. And don't forget, I'm also going to be linking to Jase Medical and some other things in the description below. So if you're interested in being prepared as it pertains to medicines, make sure you check out those links in the description below. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I have for you. Again, these are just suggestions. If you guys have any other suggestions, make sure you leave those down in the comments below. If you have any comments on anything we talked about, make sure you let us know. I hope this video helped you out, guys. If it did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a big old thumbs up. That's going to help us with that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to help support the channel, you can do that by using our links in the description below. You can also join us on Patreon or visit pilotpatriotapparel.com to get yourself some patriotic and Second Amendment t-shirts. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and stay prepared.